Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we will continue our lab the transformers. This is the video number 36. We will discuss this video the server role or the feature in Windows Server 2019, which is called WSUS, which is referring or the abbreviation of Windows Service Update Service. Let's have here a little quick on what is WSUS. Okay, this is the description of a WSUS. It is basically enables administrators or IT personnel to manage the distribution of updates and hotfixes released for Microsoft products to computers in a corporate environment. Basically, what does the WSUS do? We will do that. We will go to our domain controller and open our server manager and add this server role. This basically what it does, that it's make sure that all of your operating systems on your domain or your network is up to date. For example, if you have for example 50 PCs, workstations for your employees and employees and colleagues, for example, they are using 50 workstations, all of them have Windows 10, for example. So the WSUS, what does it do? It distributes the latest updates of Windows 10 operating system to these workstations automatically. How this will work? Basically what we will do, that we will add this server role to the domain controller, and then we will set up a group policy to tell all of the workstations and the servers in the domain to get the latest Windows updates, either for Windows 10 or any or Windows Server or any Windows operating system. They will have to go to the domain controller, okay, that have this server installed on, or this server feature installed on. Okay, so it basically facilitates the process of updating your operating system in your network. So if this server role is not installed, so basically every computer or every user will be responsible for updating his Windows 10 or Windows Server by himself, which is basically a headache, and some users will not do this. Some maybe forget or something. Some users may forget, or some users may not be able to do this. So you as an IT, we will automate this process through the Windows Server Update Service. Basically, after we install this feature, all of the workstations and servers in our domain will regularly go and check your domain controller, which have this server feature installed on, or will go to the WSUS and see if there is any updates related to their system. For Windows 10, they will go to the WSUS and see if there is any updates for Windows 10, and for Windows Server they will go to WSUS and see if there is any updates for Windows Server. Okay, and basically what the WSUS also does, it regularly goes to the website of Microsoft, maybe once a day or something. It's called syncing. It will goes to the Microsoft website and see if there is any updates or critical updates there. So it gets it, or it downloads it, and then it distributes it to the workstations. For example, we can have a small diagram here illustrating this. For example, if you go there and open here there is our domain controller, and here is our, for example, workstation 1, workstation 2, for example, another server, workstation 3. Okay, let's here is, for example, workstation Windows 10, and here also workstation Windows 10, and here is, for example, server 2019. Windows Server 2019, and here our second domain controller, and here our first domain controller. And on this server we will add, here will be our WSUS, okay, and here we will have a GPO, okay. So let's have a little bit of here and here and here and here. So basically what we will do, that we have our first domain controller, we have two domain controllers in our transformers.local domain. So we will add the WSUS feature on the first domain controller, and through a group policy we will push this WSUS address or IP address of the server to all of our workstations. So basically when this group policy is pushed to all of our clients or workstations, the workstation, when it needs update or it regularly will go and ask the server, here the WSUS, if there is any Windows updates. For example, here the workstation Windows 10 will ask the server every interval of time. For example, this is defined maybe after 2 or 3 days, I don't know exactly the time, but this can be also defined. So the workstation here will ask the WSUS if there is any updates for the Windows 10 system, and also this was done by the second workstation, and here also this is done with the Windows Server 2019, and also this is done with the second domain controller. They will all ask the WSUS if there is any updates for Windows 10 or Windows Server, okay. And basically what happens if the WSUS here, what does it do? If for example if they ask the WSUS and it said that there is updates, how the WSUS gets its update? Basically what it do, it will go to the here it will go to the here internet Microsoft website. So here what does it do? The WSUS will regularly once a day will check the internet and go to the Microsoft website and see if there is any Windows 10 updates and Windows Server updates. We'll see if they are published on the Microsoft website, and then he will download it to the server, okay, and if there is update, it will push it to all of the clients, okay. This is the first thing to do, okay. And basically also the workstations every interval of time will ask the WSUS if there is, or regularly check with the WSUS and see if there is any updates. So this is basically what we will do. We will install the WSUS, okay, and then we will configure the WSUS to go check the internet, the website of Microsoft, and see if there is any updates for Windows 10 and Windows Server. We will define this in the WSUS. When we configure the WSUS, we will tell him to get updates for, or we will tell him to check in the internet, specifically the Microsoft website, for updates for a specific operating system. For example, our network have Windows 10 and Windows Server 2019. So we will tell the WSUS to check the internet Microsoft website for Windows 10 and Windows Server 2019 updates, security updates whatsoever for this website, and download them. This also will be configured. We will configure it to be done once a day at 12 midnight, okay. So we will add the WSUS, we'll configure it to get specific operating system updates and to get these updates at a specific interval of time. And after this is done, we will make a group policy and push it to all of the clients with the IP address of the WSUS server. So when the workstation or the server needs update, it will talk to the WSUS to get the update. How this, or how the workstation will know that it should talk to the WSUS, or it should talk to this server with this IP address, this will done through the group policy, okay. So this is basically the process. Okay, and in the WSUS we'll have some best practice from my best practice in work. I have some best practices I have done. So sorry, just go here because it was. So I have some best practices. For example, what we should do with the how we can configure the WSUS. There is some best practices for configuring the WSUS, some best practices to troubleshoot the WSUS if there is a problem, and some best practice also to get reports and to check the updates and approve the updates. For example, also when you get updates from the Microsoft website, you have the option to approve this update. I mean, you can tell it or tell the WSUS, okay, I have this update approved, so push it to all of the clients. If, for example, there is, for example, sometimes Microsoft makes some faulty updates, and these updates makes problems to workstations or servers. So for example, if you know this update number, okay, so you can tell the WSUS to decline this update, so it will not be published to the workstations and servers, so it will not make problems. We will see all of this when we install the WSUS server feature on the domain controller. So let's begin. So you will open the VM Workstation Pro. And also to make your operating systems in your network either Windows 10 or Windows Server 2019, most the operating systems should be up to date, or all of the operating systems in your environment should be up to date. Here we will power on our first domain controller, which we will install on it the WSUS feature. Here we will increase the RAM because the WSUS needs a lot of RAM, and then I will add another hard disk because I will install the WSUS on it. The WSUS here I will make this hard disk 100 gigs. Okay, why I am doing a special hard disk for the web WSUS? WSUS, as I said before, it will check the website of Microsoft and download the updates of Microsoft to your server. So this needs a little bit of a big space, because for example, if you have different updates or you have different operating systems in your environment, for example you have Windows 10, Windows 7, so you need to have a space so it can download all of these updates on your hard disk, and it will not be filled quickly. For example, also it doesn't mean that you will already download the updates only. So for example, these updates are by months. For example, if you have a workstation that was not updated, for example, for 5 or 6 months, so the WSUS will get all of the Windows 10 updates from 5 or 6 months. So this sometimes needs a larger space. So you need to have, when you are installing WSUS, to have a larger space and to have a huge RAM, not a huge RAM, but a reasonable amount of RAM, because the WSUS takes a lot of the RAM processing, and also you need to have some processor involved. You have to have also some larger processor or some bus processing, because basically the WSUS, it's RAM eating and not processor, but basically the RAM. So you need to have a large hard disk and a large RAM, because even the large RAM is needed, because when the workstation, as I said before, we will push a group policy to tell the workstations if it needs any updates. So you need to talk to the WSUS server, which is IP address is this IP and the name. So this discovery process, as I try to say, or this discovery process, as I can say it, needs some RAM, because you need the server will broadcast itself to all of the workstations. Okay, so for example, after you make the group policy and tell the workstation that, for example, you need to talk to this server with this IP address, the workstation will begin talking to the WSUS. So the talking process or the connecting process to WSUS needs RAM. The server needs to have a RAM to discover these workstations or this process of discovery. Okay. Anyway, we will do this. We'll do this hard disk. Okay, and we will put it in the place of the the virtual machine folder that we have, and then save, and then finish, and then OK. And then okay, I will have to power on the firewall because I need to have an internet access, because after we install the WSUS will go to the website of Microsoft and begin downloading the updates. Okay, so you need to have an internet connection. So also in this video you will see some best practices on how to troubleshoot the WSUS if there is any problems. For example, there is a problem, for example, that after installing the WSUS and creating a group policy telling the workstations and PCs in our environment to go to the WSUS and get updates if it needs update, sometimes the WSUS doesn't see the workstations. As we will see in a couple of minutes, after installing a WSUS, all of the workstations will talk to the WSUS and they will appear in its console or in its let's say window or console. All of them will appear in the WSUS console, and the WSUS will know their names, the workstation names and IP addresses, and what updates is missing from these workstations, okay, or what update is needed for them. Okay, so this discovery process sometimes it doesn't go smoothly. For example, when you make the WSUS and then, as I said before, publish it to a group policy and push it to the clients, sometimes the WSUS in its console doesn't you can't see any workstations joining the WSUS. Okay, to see, as I said before, you need all of workstation to join the WSUS to see or to make the WSUS discover these workstations and tell them what updates are missing from them and what is needed, and also to push it to the workstations. Okay, so this discovery process, as I said before, sometimes it doesn't go smoothly. For example, maybe you discover or install the WSUS and then make the group policy with the WSUS IP and name, but you don't see any workstations joining the WSUS. Okay, even though the workstations, as I said before, the group policy was published and the workstations or servers know that there is a server called WSUS contains all the updates they need, but after that, even though the workstations are talking to the WSUS server doesn't see them or doesn't recognize them, or even the workstations can't join the WSUS server console to make it see it. Okay, so this is a problem. We'll see how this will be solved. And also we'll see that in a moment until it comes, so keep in mind this tip, because we will see in this video how we can solve it. Okay, so now the domain controller is up and running, and the firewall have some error, but we'll ignore this for the moment, and we will log into the domain controller. So it will take a little bit of time. I think we need to make it faster. Okay. So now, after we have added the hard disk that we will install the WSUS on it, we will go to the disk manager and initialize the disk and make it online, and then make a new partition. We have the C partition for the system, the D partition for the data of the server, and then we will make a drive called F. This F drive will contain the WSUS server, or we will set up the WSUS server on it. And actually all the updates that the WSUS will get from the Microsoft website will be installed on this drive in a folder that we will call WSUS. So make sure when you have WSUS configured to have a large disk space for the WSUS, because it will download and save all of the Microsoft updates that it will get on this hard disk. So now this is the hard disk. We will right click and tell him online, and then initialize, and then we will tell him OK, and right click to make a new partition. This partition we will call it F, simple, and then next, make it as an F drive, and then we will name it WSUS. Okay, and then we'll format it as NTFS and finish. So now this is an ISO image that I was using, or this contains the office. I will just eject it. So now you will see that the the new drive is appearing, and it's called F. Okay, let's go a little bit quicker. Okay, here you go. Okay, I think we will go a little bit faster. Okay, we will open the server manager, and then we will add the WSUS or Windows Service Update Service to the domain controller. It is a server role. We will open the server manager. We'll go to manage, and then add role and features, but we will wait a little bit of time. It will take a little bit of time. So I have one service, it's not running something. You need to check also the server manager dashboard to see if there is any services on your domain controller that is not running. This is the Brave service. This is a browser. I have a Brave browser on my domain controller, so it's saying that the Brave browser service is not working, so I'm telling him to run it. So now I tell him manage, and then add role and features, and then next, and then we will go at the bottom. Okay, the WSUS update services. Okay, and tell him add features, and then next. And actually I prefer to have NetFrame 3.5 features installed, okay, as well. Okay, and then tell him next. he is asking us where he will save the updates, or he store the updates that he will get it from the Microsoft website. So we'll make a folder in the newly created volume or drive. Here we will see that this is the F drive, and we will create a folder and name it WSUS. Okay, and tell the configuration of the WSUS that we need to store the updates that we will get from the Microsoft website in this folder, and then we tell him install that feature. Actually, there is a little tip to say. The WSUS, when it installs, or when you install the WSUS service, it uses a database, okay, like a SQL database, to store the Microsoft updates in it. Okay, this is a database that will contain all of the, not the database itself will contain the updates of Microsoft, but this database will contain all of the activities that concern the Microsoft updates. For example, if you, for example, tell the WSUS to get the updates of Windows 10 Server 2019, and then, as I said before, you can approve some updates to be installed and decline some updates to be installed. This will be done on maybe an interval 2 or 3 or 4 years. So the WSUS records this approval and denial of services and a lot of things concerning the updates in a database like a SQL database, but it is not a SQL database, it is a Windows internal database. So basically the WSUS needs two things. It needs a drive or folder to install, or sorry, to store the Windows Microsoft, also to store the Microsoft updates in it, and a database to record all of the activities concerning this Microsoft updates, from declining and approving of these updates. All of this will be recorded in a database, okay, because sometimes the updates are by millions, or not millions, maybe by thousands, and the activities concerning approval and denial of this or declining of these updates are done, if you are an IT, you will do this basically once a week, maybe for 2 or 3 or 4 years. So you need to have an history of all the updates you have declined or approved, because sometimes when you need to troubleshoot the if there is a problem with a certain update, you need to return to the history of these updates to see when you approved an update and declined an update. And actually, not only the activity of the updates are recorded in this database, but also the reports concerning the updates. You need, for example, to get a report how much updates you have installed during 1 year. So this statistics or this data will be stored in a database, okay, Windows internal database, and this database you can get reports from it. So basically the database is used for recording data and getting reports, okay. It's like analyzing, or it is collecting data, because from it you can make reports with certain updates you have installed, for example from 1 year, what you have installed, what you have declined, what operating system updates you have downloaded, okay, and anything concerns the updates will be restored, or will be stored in this database. Okay, so this is basically the purpose of making a database for the WSUS. And then after we finish, we will launch something called launch pre-configuration tasks. We will click on it, and after maybe 2 or 3, maybe 10 minutes, the WSUS will be up and running. It says configuration successfully completed. Then we will begin configuring the WSUS. I said before, this is the Brave browser service. I am just making it started, or starting. So now we will go to our custom console. As I said before, you can make a custom console and add all of the things you need to be configured or run from your server in one console. I said this before in my previous videos. We will open the transformers console and add the WSUS to it so we can configure it. So now we will go and add. First of all, we need to make sure in the services. Here we have a service called Windows Internal Database. Here, let's have a look. Windows Internal Database, this is the service that is very critical, okay, to be running, because if this is not running, your WSUS will not work. As I said before, the WSUS, it needs a database to record its activity and to get its report from it. If so, you can get reports from WSUS, you need to have the internal database to be running. So if this service is not running, your WSUS will not work. So this is another step or another tip when you are troubleshooting that WSUS is not working for any reason. You need to make sure that the Windows internal database is up and running. This is like also the Microsoft Right Management Service. Also, it also works with a Windows Internal Database. If it's not working, you need to make sure also that the Windows Internal Database service is running. So now we'll make file and then add or remove snap in, and then we will add the WSUS to our custom console. So in this console we have all of the things that we need to configure in one place, so you don't need to open the start in administrative tools and then open each one of them individually, okay, and to make them in the taskbar and open them individually. No, you can put them in one console, okay. So let's go a little bit backwards. Okay, so you can add all of this in one console. As I said before, snap in, we will add the Windows update services and then tell him add. Here we will begin configuring the WSUS. We tell him next and then next, and then we tell him to synchronize or to get the updates from Microsoft, and then we'll tell next. Here we will begin our initial. Here we are telling the WSUS to connect to the Microsoft website to get the updates, okay. This is the first thing to do. You need to start connecting to connect to the Microsoft update website. This is the first thing. It will take about 5 or 10 minutes depending your internet connection speed, okay. So we'll pause the video until it is finished. Now it is already finished. He has connected to the Microsoft website. Okay, and tell them next. Here we will choose what language we need the updates to be in. You can, example, if you have another language, if you need it in Arabic or English, I will leave it as it is. I will download the updates in English. Okay, and then we will choose what operating systems we need to download its updates from the Microsoft website. For example, here I have in my domain Windows 10 and Windows Server 2019 and Office 2019, so I will choose all of them. I tell him I need Office 2019, and I have Windows 10 also. Okay, for example here I need to download the Windows 10 updates. Okay, and I need the Windows 10 LTSB, okay, because I have some Windows 10 LTSB in my environment. Actually this is the only Windows I have in my environment, Windows 10 LTSB or LTSC, Windows 10, and Windows Defender. We have also Windows Defender in our network. Actually, because I don't have an antivirus on my workstations except of Windows Defender, so I will use these updates, or I updated the Windows Defender. I don't have Windows Server 2016, I have Windows Server 2019. So now we have chosen what type of operating system updates we will go to the Microsoft website to download it, depending upon your environment, what operating systems are used on your environment, your servers and workstations operating systems. Next, here we have something we can discuss it. Here Microsoft classifies the updates, or let's say it classifies or make it in groups. For example, here is critical updates. This is very critical, you need to download them and install them immediately, because these critical updates, for example, are critical security updates or security bugs that appears in the Windows operating system. To Microsoft have them grouped under something called critical updates. And definition updates, this is for the Windows Defender. These are the antivirus updates for the Windows Defender. And then security updates are like the critical update but less in importance, or maybe the second. For example, this is the top critical, this is the second top critical, so you need to check critical updates and security updates always. Okay, and definition updates if you have an antivirus Windows Defender, and upgrades if, for example, you have an upgrade from Windows 10, for example 1809 to Windows 10 1909, so you need to check this as well. These are all classifications. You can choose what you need from your as you need. For example, here service packs, for example, if there is a service pack you can choose it. Okay, but basically we can just choose only these four classifications. This is enough for now, and after you begin working with the WSUS, you will know what updates you need or what type of updates you are dealing with, so you can go again in the WSUS and check whatever you need from here. Okay, and then we tell him next. Then we'll begin syncing. Here it will begin connecting. Here, just a minute, here we can go again. Here in this, you are telling the WSUS when to now we will begin connecting to the Microsoft website and begin downloading updates now. But if you need it to done automatically, you can tell him to sync automatically at afternoon or at midnight. This should be done, but actually, as for the purpose of the lab, I will do it now. But you can do it automatically, and this should be done in a production environment. You need to sync it automatically at noon when there is no one working. You can make it at midnight. Okay, and we will sync it once per day. You will make it the WSUS connect to the Microsoft website at 12 midnight only once a day. Okay, if you need more than once, this is your decision. So now we will tell him to next and then finish and then okay. So now we will begin something first. Here we can see that, let's discuss it a little bit more. Here we can see that something called computers, and this all computers, and then unassigned computers. Here is the place where all of your workstations will be, or you can see them from this tab. For example, if you need to know what computers need what updates, or what computers have some missing updates, it will be appearing from here. How these computers will appear in here, as I said before, we will make a group policy and tell the workstations that if you need to get your updates, you need to talk to this server, which is HP Gen 8 server bot 1. Okay, so the workstations will talk to the WSUS. Once they talk to him, he will put them all in all computers, unassigned computers. We will make some modifications here. We will make another 3 or 4 classifications here. We will make something called compbot, robots, and servbot. So for example, if all of your workstations or servers are in the unassigned computers, so we need to make it a little bit clear or more visible. So I will example, when all of the workstations and computers are put in unassigned, I will make 1 or 3 others. For example, I name 1 servers and 1 workstations, and then I will put from the unassigned computers the servers in the servers folder and the workstations in the workstations folder. This is good, so you can differentiate between the computers, because for example, you need certain updates to be installed on the servers and not to be installed on the workstations, and vice versa. So we'll see how this is done. And actually we'll do some best practice here. We will make another folder, we will call it test. In this test we will choose from each department a workstation, and for example from each department a workstation, and put them in the test folder. This test folder, we will try, or we will test our updates on this folder, or on the computers in this folder. For example, if you have in the test folder 3 or 4 computers, and you have some updates, and you are not sure if these updates will make problems or not, so we will approve these updates to be installed to the test folder, which contains the workstations. Okay, we will see that in a moment, but let's go with me. Here, right click, then add a computer group, and we name it servers or servbot. This folder, as I said before, we will contain servers in it, and then we will add another one, robots and compbots. This will contains our workstations. So we have 3 okay, compbot, okay, and another one called test. Here, first of all, we will put our workstations in compbots and robots, and the servers will be here in bots. So when all of our servers and workstations connect or contact the WSUS, he will put them first at unassigned computers. So we will go to unassigned computers and see what is the servers and what is the workstations, and we will put them respectively in their group. So we'll put workstations in the compbots and robots, and the servers will be in the server bots. And this is we do this to differentiate workstations from servers, and to control what updates that we should install. For example, we need some updates to be installed to servers and not to workstations, and we will do another group, we will call it test. We will make it so we can test our updates before widely installing them. For example, here you have your compbots and robots, and you have for example 10 or 20 updates. You need to install them on all of your workstations, but you are not sure if these updates will make a problem. So we will make another group called test, and take a sample from compbots and robots and put them in the test, and then take the updates and approve them to the group that is called test. So if your updates are good and good to go, and the test group or the computers in this group doesn't have any problems with the new updates, so you can after that approve them to compbots and robots. Okay, and the same can be applied to servers, but servers you can't test servers. Okay, we basically do this with only the workstations. Okay, And also this is good if any problem appears with some updates, you will know exactly or it will be on a limited number of PCs. Okay. Click and then add another one, we call it test. So now this is the sync tab. In the sync tab we tell him to sync now. Now after we have done this, this means that the WSUS should now go and connect to the Microsoft website to begin downloading the updates. This process will take some time, so we'll pause the video until this process is finished. Sorry, I don't know what this sound is. So now we have just a minute. Here we can see that the updates, we have 192 security updates and 68 critical updates. Okay, and it's still syncing and getting updates. Here, as I said before, to make our workstations and servers contact the WSUS, we need to set up a group policy and push it to the servers and workstations. In this group policy, we will tell them if you need to update your system, you need to go and talk to the WSUS, which is name is HP Gen 8 server bot 1, and the IP address is this IP address. Okay, so we'll do this now. And you also, in the group policy, will tell him, for example, there is another thing in the group policy. In the group policy, we will tell him, for example, when the workstation goes and contact the WSUS and it sees that there is new updates and it is needed to be installed. Okay, so in the group policy we'll tell him to download and install directly. Okay, you will not ask the user for installing, he will install. This is only can be done for the workstations. Okay, we will tell him, or in the group policy we'll tell him to tell the workstations and the servers with the IP address and the name of the WSUS server, and as for the workstations, we will tell him to download and install the updates without the permission of the user. This is only done for the workstations. And if for example, the user doesn't install the update, so it's after certain amount of time, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, it will install it and restart the workstation without the user permission. Okay, so this is done on the workstation. As for the servers, we will have another group policy. We will tell the servers with the IP address and the name of the WSUS server, and we'll tell him if the server sees or it discovers that it needs some updates, it will download the updates only. Okay, and then as an IT, you should go and install the updates manually. Why we are doing this? Because on the servers is a critical thing in the domain, and sometimes the server should be up and running 24/7. So you need to be very sure, because if you tell him to download the updates and install automatically, so it will download and install and restart if it is needed. Okay, so this should not be done on server. On servers, you will tell, or we will push a group policy telling the servers with the IP address and the name of the WSUS, and then we'll tell the group policy to just download the updates on the servers and let me as an IT to install the update manually. Because when I go and install the update manually, I can tell the users, for example, that I have a downtime for installing updates, so I can be prepared for a downtime. And this is done in a production environment. So you need to make, or to be very sure when you are pushing the group policy, to have two different group policies, one for the workstations WSUS updates, and another one for the Windows Server WSUS group policy. Okay, so you need to make sure of this, and we will have two different settings, as I said before, one to download and install for the workstations, and the other one for the servers to download only. Okay, we will see this in a moment, so don't be in a hurry. We will do this practically. Here we will go to the WSUS policy and edit. And we will go to the computer configuration. Policies, and then administrative tools. And then OK. And then we'll go to the Windows components. And then in the Windows updates we should have these configure automatic updates. We will see this, and we will tell him in the configure automatic updates to download updates and install. Okay, we can see that it will auto download and schedule install. Okay, after that, this is what I am telling you, that if you are working with a workstation and not a server, you have to choose this option to download and install automatically. So it will download and install without the interference of the user. The user should not go and install the update by himself. It will auto download and install, and then after a certain amount of time it will restart if it is needed automatically without the user interference. Okay, so this is a suitable option for the workstations of the domain, but as for the servers we will not use this option. So this should be enabled, and you can read what is the explanation of this group policy. Actually, sorry, I need to have another thing. Please get a little bit back. Here we choose check this one, because install updates for other Microsoft products, these should be checked, but I have forgot to do this. This should be checked, so it will also install Office updates. Okay, so if this is not checked, it will not install, or it will not tell the workstation that there is Office updates for the workstation. If, for example, the workstation have Office installed on it, if this option is not checked, it will not give Office updates to the workstation. So this also should be checked. And then specify intranet. Here this is the name. We will put the name of the server, which is HP Gen 8 Servbot 1 8530. This is the port of the WSUS. So this should be written here and written here. This is how the workstations will know how, or this how the workstations will know how to communicate with the WSUS, by the name of the server and the port, or also the IP address. But basically we know how to connect, or workstation servers will know how to connect to WSUS by the name and the port. Okay. Okay, so now this is done. Also, there is another option here. It's called allow signed updates from intranet Windows Server update. This is when you have, for example, This will be discussed in another video. For example, there is third-party software that can be integrated with the WSUS to make the WSUS push updates to the workstation and server that is not Windows products. For example, if you need to push Adobe updates, Java updates, Adobe Flash updates, this can be done through a software. It's called third-party WSUS software. This can be integrated with the WSUS, and these updates should be signed or should be verified by the WSUS so it can push it to the clients. So if we have this kind of solution, we need to choose or to check this option, allow signed updates from an intranet Microsoft update server. This should be done, okay, because these updates, which is not Microsoft products, should be signed or should be certified by a certification from the WSUS server. The WSUS server should give this updates a certification, so it is approving them and securing them, okay, because anyone can push any updates to the clients. So these updates should be signed and verified by WSUS to make sure that no one will push any updates other than the WSUS, okay, especially if they are not Microsoft products. So now I'm just checking if there is anything concerning the users. This will be done through the computer configuration. So this group policy will be applied to the workstations, okay. We will have another group policy that will be applied, a WSUS group policy will be applied to the servers, as I said before. Why? Because we need the WSUS to install the updates, to only download the updates on the servers, and you as an IT will install the updates by yourself, okay. So it will not restart. For example, if there is an update and need restarts, you will be there, okay, it will not do this automatically. This is very critical when you are working with servers. Okay, so we will go to the default domain policy. We have a policy called WSUS. This will be pushed to the workstation, and also we have another group policy which is called default domain policy. This also is pushed to all servers and workstations. Here we should make sure that this only is there, okay, and we do not configure this, okay. We will configure only this one. This is a precaution if you need. And here we will have this option, allow now administrative to receive update notification. This will be disabled, and here we will also allow assigned updates for intranet service updates, okay. I think this is not, we will not be concerned with this because we didn't have configure updates opened. I think there is not something concerns the user configuration. Also this will be done through the computer configuration. You can go faster. Okay, there is nothing. Okay, so here we'll go a little bit further. Okay, so now we will go and configure. Okay, just a minute. We'll go and configure the default domain controllers. Here, as I said before, the servers will have a special WSUS group policy. Here in my environment I don't have servers except of the domain controllers, so I will not make a new group policy and name it WSUS servers group policy. I will directly edit the default domain controllers policy because I only have domain controllers as servers. Okay, so I'll just right click and edit and then configure the WSUS policy here. Okay, but if you have more than one server and not all of them are domain controllers, so you need to make a new group policy and name it WSUS servers group policy and configure the following. Okay, so we'll go to the Windows updates. Okay, and here we will begin configuring the automatic updates. You can tell him the intranet, the name. This is done already. We have done this already, but to configure it, and then automatic updates. Here we will tell him enable and auto download and notify for install. Okay, we will not choose the option number 4, which is auto download and schedule for install. We will choose auto download and notify for install. Here it will only download the update and wait for you as an administrator to install it. Okay, just to make sure, because if an install needs an updates, if the install or the update needs to restart the server, you need to be there. Okay, because if you tell him number 4, for example, it will restart automatically if the updates need this. So this is very critical for the server. You need to restart the server in certain times, and you need to notify the users that will be a downtime, so they are not surprised by a sudden shutdown or sudden falling or sudden sudden stopping of your servers, especially if this is a file server or a domain controller. So now we have configured the group policies for both workstations and servers, and we have downloaded the updates from the Microsoft website. Now we need to see the updates and approve or decline which updates to be installed or which should not be installed. Okay, so here we have 192 security updates, 192 security updates, and 86 critical updates. So we can go to approve them or decline them. Sorry, I'm just I think I'm here increasing the RAM of the server, because as I said before, the WSUS needs a lot of RAM. So here I'm increasing it from 3 GB to 4 GB, and then I will begin powering on the virtual machine. Okay, let me pause this real quickly. Here, okay, and what I'm just doing here, I am just increasing the virtual RAM. This is an option in Windows that you can increase your performance of the RAM by adding something called a virtual RAM. This is additional RAM that will be used after the the full usage of your physical RAM. For example, if you have on the server on the RAM, sorry, if you have on your server a RAM for 4 gigs, if this is ended, it takes a part of the server hard disk as a RAM and use it as a RAM. So here I'm telling him to make a virtual RAM of 7,000 mega or 7 gigs to 8 gigs. A best practice is to increase your virtual RAM to be double of your physical RAM. If, for example, if I have on your server a RAM of 4 gigabyte, you need to make your virtual RAM a 8 gigabyte. Okay, double. So this is to increase the performance of your RAM. Okay, so here we need to make a restart. Here I'm just making something. I will add the services tab. Sorry, I need to pass it real quickly. Okay, I will add the services here and then a restart. You can make it here quickly. So here we can see in the services, we need, as I said before, need to make sure that the Windows internal database service is working, so the WSUS will be working. Okay, as I said before, because the WSUS needs the Windows internal database to write its activity in it and to generate the reports from it. Okay, with Windows internal database it's not running, so we need to start it. This is first step in troubleshooting WSUS. This service should be running, and there is another service called WSUS service. This also need to be up and running for the WSUS to be working. Okay, so we'll see this in a moment. I think we need to pass it real quickly. Okay, here it is, still it's not running, but it will take a little bit of time. Here there is, we can get a little bit further. The second service we need to concentrate on when there is a problem with the WSUS is the WSUS service. Okay, here this service should be running. If it's not running, then there is a problem with the WSUS, so you need to make it run. So this, I think it will take a little bit of time, so you can communicate here. So here it's up and running. So now we will begin the process of approving and declining the updates. The first step after the WSUS connects to the Microsoft website and download the updates for the operating system that we have defined in our previous step, we need to tell the WSUS, okay, this is the updates 10 or 20, I need to approve for installation 10, and the other 10, for example, I need to decline them because I have, for example, or I am just concerning, or I have a just a minute, because, for example, I am suspecting that the other 10 updates is not suitable for my environment, or they will do some problems, or they are expired, or they are old updates, so I don't need them. We will see how we can know that the updates that it is downloaded, that they are really needed by my workstations and servers or not. We will see how we can do this process, but if you wait for a second, I will show you all. Again, I think I'm just repeating the process again. You can just pass it real quickly also. Here we can see that we will go to the here approved security updates. Okay, here we can see that unapproved and any. We can see here that, just a minute, we can see that there is a tab called installed. If these updates are installed, it will tell you 100%. You need to make sure, for example, if you have workstations and these updates are needed, if it's telling you that is 100% installed, then they are installed successfully in all the workstations that need this update. And approval, if still we didn't approve it, we will right click and add another column which is called needed. From this tab it will tell you this update, it needed, how much workstations or servers need this update. This is very critical. If you add the needed column, you will make sure, or you will know which update is needed and which update is not needed. Why we do this? Because after a long time of downloading updates, your database and your hard disk will be filled, so you need to decline all the updates that is not needed anymore. So if you add the needed tab, you will make sure to decline the updates that is not needed, and you will know also what updates are needed. Okay, but also this should be done when you add all of your workstations and servers to the unassigned computers. This should be done first. Okay, there is also something called arrival date. This is the time that this update has been downloaded. Okay, here in the needed also, here as I said before, we have something called needed. Here we can see that all of this is telling you 000 because I didn't add any or the workstations or servers didn't communicate with the WSUS first. So okay, so if there is no workstations or servers that have communicated the WSUS, okay, so now, okay, yes, this is logically because there is no updates needed. But if there is some workstations here and some servers here, this needed will be changed. We will see 1 or 2 or 3. Okay, so here what I am doing now, I am just checking them all and tell him right click and decline. Okay, because it's not needed. We can do this in a moment. Just a minute. Here we can see, okay, just a minute, we will get a little bit further. Here in the unassigned computers, we will see when your workstations and servers communicate with the WSUS, all of the workstations and servers will be here. Okay, you will see you will see them here by their name. Okay, so after they are here, we will just reorganize them and put them in their respective groups. For example, workstations will be in compo bots and robots, and servers will be in server bots. Okay, we will see this, how this is done. Here I'm just checking to see if my server or domain controller need any updates. I think it has some updates needed. Updates are downloaded before adding the WSUS server role. This has been done, or these updates have been downloaded in a previous video when we were installing the firewall. It has already downloaded these updates from the Microsoft website, not from the WSUS server. Okay, so now we will go to the updates and decline them, as I said before. You can reorganize them by name or whatsoever. Here we can see that these updates are named by the year and the months. Okay, so this is a huge number of updates from 2017. It will getting all of the previous updates until 2020, so it will be huge number. so you need to make sure that all of these updates are needed. Okay, so if not any of them or some of them is not needed, so we know how we can know this from the needed tab. But this should be done, or you can decline the updates not before knowing or before seeing all of your workstations and servers in the unassigned computers. Okay, before doing this. I think I can bypass it real quickly also. Okay, just a minute. Again. So now here we are getting some updates, and then we will right click and decline and tell him to decline it and tell him yes. And refresh. So now we have declined some updates. Here we can see that, for example, there is some updates for the Windows server. So I will approve them in a moment, but I am just also declining some updates because they are not needed. Okay, I can think I passed this real quickly also. So I'm declining some updates as well. Okay, and then declining also some updates. So now we have only 3 updates left. Okay, then approve. We will approve these 3 updates to the servers, to the server bots group. Okay, here we can see that it sees 1 computer. Here we can see that this is all the updates that I have downloaded from a previous video when I was installing the firewall. This updates is not pushed or it's not pulled from the WSUS. This are pulled directly from the Microsoft website. Okay, so don't take this in consideration. We didn't download these updates yet for the WSUS from the WSUS. These are downloaded from the Microsoft website directly. Okay. Here we can see configured that the updates are configured by the group policy. So this means that they will get after that their updates from the WSUS. Okay. Here we can see this is the name of our domain controller. We need to put this domain controller in the serve bots group. So we know how, or we will see how this is done. Now this is in the unassigned computers. It will be here. Okay, so we need to change its place from the unassigned to the server bots. Tell him any, and then okay, refresh, right click and change membership and tell him to go to the server bots. Okay, as I said before, here you can run some reports from the WSUS to see how many updates are installed, which updates for which systems, how many systems I have, how many updates I have installed over the years. So here we can see there is a problem. That's when you try to run an update, a report, it tells you that you need to download the Microsoft Report Viewer 2012. We need to install this redistribute file before being able to run a report. So we'll do this in the next video, but make sure to note this. Okay, so as soon when you click on it, we'll get you to the website that contains this file. Okay, here we can see that I have gone to the internet and searched for the file, but actually here is it go. It is Windows report viewer 2012. We will download it, but actually there was a problem with my internet, so I wasn't able to download it in this video, but in the upcoming video I will install it. So until I see you all the next video, I hope this video was informative for you, and I would like to thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.